April 5th, 1945, 0400 hours, near Massa, Italy. Private First Class Robert Madison of the 371st Infantry Regiment, 92nd Infantry Division, crouches in a pre-attack position facing the Gothic line, Germany's last fortified defensive position in northern Italy. He's been told his division is unreliable, that black soldiers can't handle offensive combat, that the 92nd failed previous operations and will probably fail this one. His commanding general, Major General Edward Almond, has said as much repeatedly. The Negro soldier has shown himself to be lacking in initiative and offensive spirit. Madison knows the Gothic line's reputation. Allied forces have been attacking it for 6 months, since August 1944. White, British, and American divisions have tried to break through repeatedly. The line hasn't broken. German defenders hold fortified positions in mountains, with clear fields of fire, prepared defenses, and 6 months of experience repelling Allied attacks. Now the 92nd Infantry Division, dismissed as incompetent, labeled as cowards, expected to fail, gets the mission. Break through the Gothic line at Massa, the most heavily fortified sector, and collapse the entire German defensive position. The division has been reinforced for this operation. They've received additional artillery support, armor, and air cover. They've trained intensively for mountain warfare and fortified position assault. They're as prepared as any division can be. At 0400, American artillery begins firing. Thousands of shells pound German positions. The bombardment lasts 30 minutes, devastating preparation intended to suppress defenders before the infantry advances. At 0430, the bombardment lifts. Madison and thousands of other 92nd Infantry soldiers advance toward German positions. They expect massive resistance. The Gothic line has stopped Allied attacks for 6 months. German defenders are experienced, well-equipped, fighting from prepared positions. Breaking through should take days, maybe weeks, with heavy casualties. Instead, the line collapses in 48 hours. Madison's regiment advances through German defenses, encountering resistance but overwhelming it through aggressive action and superior numbers. German soldiers surrender in groups, demoralized, exhausted from months of fighting, unprepared for the 92nd's aggressive assault. By April 7th, 48 hours after the attack began, the Gothic line is broken. The 92nd captures over 350 German prisoners, advances 30 miles, and collapses the defensive position that held against Allied attacks for half a year. The breakthrough changes the entire Italian campaign. With the Gothic line broken, German forces can't maintain defensive positions in Italy. They begin retreating toward Austria. The war in Italy effectively ends. German surrender comes 3 weeks later. The 92nd Infantry Division accomplished what white divisions couldn't. They broke the Gothic line in 2 days. White commanders immediately take credit. Official reports describe innovative tactics and superior leadership, without mentioning the 92nd specifically. The breakthrough is attributed to American military superiority, not to the black soldiers who actually executed the attack. Major General Almond, the same officer who called the 92nd unreliable, writes after-action reports criticizing the division for excessive casualties during the operation. The breakthrough succeeded, but Almond finds ways to criticize anyway. This is the Gothic line breakthrough, April 1945, when black soldiers accomplished the impossible and were denied recognition for it. If you want military history about soldiers who proved doubters catastrophically wrong, subscribe right now. Drop a comment with where you're watching from. The 90 seconds Gothic line breakthrough deserves recognition 80 years overdue. The Gothic line is Germany's last major defensive position in Italy. After Allied forces liberate Rome in June 1944, German forces retreat northward to prepare defensive positions across northern Italy's mountains. This line, called the Gothic Line by Allies, the Green Line by Germans, stretches from the Ligurian Sea on the west to the Adriatic Sea on the east. The position is heavily fortified. German engineers spend months improving natural defensive terrain, mountain positions with clear fields of fire into valleys, concrete bunkers housing machine guns and anti-tank weapons, minefields protecting approaches to defensive positions, artillery pre-sighted on likely Allied attack routes, multiple defensive lines. If Allies break through one, another waits behind it. German defenders include experienced units withdrawn from other fronts. They've been fighting in Italy for years, understand the terrain, know how to maximize defensive advantages. Allied attacks begin in August 1944. British 8th Army attacks on the eastern side. American 5th Army attacks on the western side. Both offensives aim to break through the Gothic line and advance into northern Italy. Initial attacks make limited progress. Allied forces capture some positions, but can't achieve breakthrough. German defenses hold. The fighting settles into attritional warfare. Both sides suffering casualties, minimal territorial gains, no decisive results. Through fall and winter 1944 to 45, Allied forces continue attacking. They capture positions incrementally, push German defenders back slowly, but can't break the line completely. The Gothic line holds for 6 months. By spring 1945, Allied commanders plan final offensive. They need to break the Gothic line decisively, collapse German defenses, and end the Italian campaign. The strategic situation has changed. Germany is losing the war. Resources are scarce. Defenders are demoralized. A strong offensive should break through. Allied commanders assign sectors for the final offensive. British forces will attack on the east. American 5th Army attacks on the west. Within 5th Army, different divisions receive different sectors. The 92nd Infantry Division receives the Massa sector, heavily fortified positions defending the coastal approach to La Spezia. This is one of the most difficult sectors. German defenses are strongest here. Terrain favors defense. Previous attacks have failed. Why assign the 92nd to the hardest sector? Official reasoning: the division is available, properly positioned, and reinforced for the operation. Cynical reading: white commanders expect the 92nd to fail, prefer risking a unreliable black division on difficult mission rather than risking white divisions. The 92nd Infantry Division is a segregated black division. Black enlisted soldiers, predominantly white officers, activated in 1942 for World War II service. The division deploys to Italy in 1944, entering combat in the late summer. They participate in fighting along the Gothic line through fall and winter 1944 to 45. Their performance is complicated by command problems. Major General Edward Almond commands the division. He's virulently racist, believes black soldiers are inherently inferior, interprets any difficulties as racial failure rather than normal combat challenges. When 92nd operations face problems, supply delays, communication failures, tactical setbacks, Almond blames black soldiers' racial inferiority rather than examining actual causes. When white units face identical problems, Almond attributes them to normal combat friction. This command dysfunction creates self-fulfilling prophecy. Almond expects the 92nd to fail, interprets everything through that lens, reports failures while minimizing successes. His reports describe the 92nd as unreliable, lacking offensive spirit, prone to panic. These reports influence how other commanders view the division. The 92nd develops reputation as ineffective unit, despite actual combat performance being comparable to other divisions in similar circumstances. Soldiers in the 92nd are aware of this. They know their commander doesn't believe in them. They know they're judged more harshly than white units. They know successes are attributed to white officers, while failures are blamed on black soldiers. This creates additional pressure. Every operation carries extra weight. If they succeed, credit goes to white leadership. If they fail, it proves racial inferiority. They can't win the narrative battle, regardless of actual performance. Despite these challenges, individual soldiers and units perform competently. They conduct patrols, hold defensive positions, execute attacks. They suffer casualties comparable to other divisions, approximately 25% over months of combat, typical for divisions in sustained fighting. By April 1945, the 92nd has been in combat for 8 months. They're experienced, understand Italian terrain, know German defensive tactics. They've taken casualties and received replacements. They're a veteran division. They're also aware this final Gothic line offensive is their opportunity to disprove the unreliable narrative. If they break through, they demonstrate capability. If they fail, it confirms doubters. The division receives reinforcement for the offensive, additional artillery battalions, tank support, combat engineers, air support. They train for the specific mission, assaulting fortified mountain positions, breaching minefields, clearing bunkers. This is the story of soldiers who broke the unbreakable line, then watched white commanders take credit. If you want military history about achievement stolen by institutional racism, subscribe right now. Drop a comment with where you're watching from. The 92nd's Gothic line breakthrough changed the war in Italy. Individual soldiers like Madison prepare psychologically. They know the mission is dangerous. Attacking prepared defenses always costs casualties. But they're determined to succeed both militarily and symbolically. This operation will define how the 92nd is remembered. April 5th, 1945. The offensive begins. At 0400, American and British artillery begin bombardment across the entire Gothic line. Thousands of shells hit German positions simultaneously. Coordinated offensive designed to overwhelm defenders. In the 92nd sector near Massa, artillery pounds German positions for 30 minutes. The bombardment is heavier than previous attacks. More guns, more ammunition, more intense preparation. At 0430, the bombardment lifts and infantry advances. The 371st, 371st, and 442nd Regimental Combat Teams, attached to the 92nd for this operation, attack German positions. German defenders respond with machine gun and artillery fire. The attack is meeting expected resistance. Allied casualties occur. Soldiers hit by defensive fire, normal cost of attacking fortified positions. But the German defense is different from previous attacks. The defenders are demoralized. They've been holding positions for months. Supplies are scarce. Relief is unlikely. They know Germany is losing the war. Their willingness to fight to the death has eroded. When American infantry reaches German positions, some defenders surrender rather than fight. Others withdraw to secondary positions. The expected fanatical resistance doesn't materialize. The 92nd exploits this. They push through initial defenses faster than expected, maintain momentum, press the attack aggressively. They use combined arms, infantry supported by tanks and artillery, to overwhelm German positions. By nightfall, April 5th, the 92nd has advanced several miles and captured multiple German positions. This progress exceeds expectations. Previous attacks made minimal gains on first day. The 92nd is breaking through. April 6th, the attack continues. German resistance stiffens slightly as defenders fall back to prepared secondary positions. But the 92nd maintains pressure. They advance through the day, capture more positions, take prisoners. By nightfall, April 6th, 48 hours after the offensive began, the Gothic line in the 92nd sector is broken. German defenses have collapsed. The 92nd advances 30 miles in 2 days, captures over 350 prisoners, and creates a breakthrough that collapses the entire defensive line. This is extraordinary achievement. The Gothic line held against Allied attacks for 6 months. Multiple divisions tried to break through and failed. The 92nd, dismissed as unreliable, expected to fail, broke through in 48 hours. The breakthrough has strategic consequences. With the 92nd's sector collapsed, German defenses across the Gothic line become untenable. British forces break through on the eastern side. German forces begin general retreat northward toward Austria. The Italian campaign effectively ends. German forces can't maintain defensive lines, can't stop Allied advance, can't prevent collapse. On April 29th, 24 days after the 92nd broke through, German forces in Italy surrender. After the breakthrough, Allied commanders write after-action reports. Fifth Army reports credit superior American tactics and innovative operational planning for breaking the Gothic line. The reports mention multiple divisions' contributions, but don't emphasize the 92nd's role specifically. British reports describe the offensive as coordinated Allied success. They note simultaneous breakthroughs on eastern and western sides broke German defenses. Neither set of reports highlights that the 92nd Infantry Division, dismissed as unreliable, expected to fail, accomplished the breakthrough in their sector in 48 hours, while white divisions fought for months without similar success. Major General Almond writes reports about the 92nd's performance. Despite the breakthrough's success, he finds criticisms. The division suffered excessive casualties due to inadequate small unit leadership and lack of initiative in exploiting success. This is gaslighting. The 92nd's casualties during the operation were proportionate to the mission's difficulty. Breaking fortified defenses always costs casualties. Comparable white divisions in similar operations suffered similar or higher casualty rates. But Almond interprets 92nd casualties as evidence of racial inferiority rather than normal combat costs. He can't acknowledge the division succeeded spectacularly, so he criticizes how they succeeded. Other white commanders follow Almond's lead. They credit the breakthrough to superior Allied resources, effective artillery support, German demoralization, anything except the 92nd's aggressive execution and combat effectiveness. Individual soldiers in the 92nd understand what happened. They broke the Gothic line. They accomplished the mission. They proved doubters wrong. But official recognition doesn't come. The division receives a Presidential Unit Citation in 1945 for their Italian campaign service, recognition of exceptional performance. But the citation is general, not specific to the Gothic line breakthrough. The historic achievement gets buried in broader campaign recognition. Madison and other 92nd veterans returned to the United States in 1945 to 46. They expect recognition for breaking the Gothic line. They accomplished what white divisions couldn't. This should be celebrated. Instead, they face continued discrimination. They return to segregated America. They're denied veterans' benefits in some states. The GI Bill theoretically applies to all veterans, but Southern states and discriminatory institutions deny Black veterans access to education and housing benefits. Madison uses GI Bill benefits to attend college in the North. He earns a degree, builds a career, raises a family. He occasionally discusses his World War II service, but doesn't emphasize the Gothic line breakthrough. The official narrative minimized it. Few people know the 92nd's role. Through the 1950s to 80s, the Gothic line breakthrough is attributed generally to Allied forces, without specific credit to the 92nd. Military histories mention the offensive. Note the successful breakthrough. Credit superior Allied resources and tactics. The 92nd's specific role, breaking through in 48 hours in the most fortified sector, remains largely unknown outside division veterans. In the 1990s to 2000s, historians researching Black soldiers' World War II contributions discover the Gothic line story. They examine after-action reports, casualty records, operational timelines. They document that the 92nd broke through in 48 hours in their sector, while other Allied divisions took months. They publish accounts emphasizing the 92nd's achievement. The Gothic line breakthrough becomes recognized in military history scholarship as significant accomplishment by Black soldiers, proving combat effectiveness despite racist command. But this recognition comes 50-plus years late. Most 92nd veterans are deceased. Madison dies in 2003 at age 81. His obituary mentions World War II service in Italy, but doesn't detail the Gothic line breakthrough. His family doesn't know the historical significance. The 92nd Infantry Division's Gothic line breakthrough deserves recognition as decisive military achievement and refutation of racist assumptions about Black soldiers' combat capability. They broke Germany's most fortified Italian defensive position in 48 hours, something white divisions couldn't accomplish in 6 months. White commanders took credit. Official histories minimized the achievement.
The soldiers who actually executed the breakthrough were denied recognition. This pattern repeats across World War II. Black soldiers accomplish extraordinary achievements. White commanders take credit. Official histories erase or minimize black contributions. The 92nd's Gothic line breakthrough is textbook example. Recognition is improving. Modern military histories acknowledge the 92nd's role. Museums include exhibits about the division. The National World War II Museum recognizes their contributions. But individual soldiers like Madison, who executed the breakthrough, remain largely anonymous. We know the 92nd broke through. We don't know most individual names of soldiers who climbed those mountains, assaulted those bunkers, and broke a line that held for 6 months. They deserve better than historical footnotes. They broke the Gothic line in 48 hours and changed the war in Italy. That achievement should be celebrated. Their names should be known. Their stories should be told accurately. Instead, they came home to segregation, died in obscurity, and remain unknown except to historians who dig through archives looking for stories the Army tried to bury.